Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Lime Storytime with the Besties. And today's episode, we have Grandma, to me, Sandy to most. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Woohoo! When I told a few people that you were going to be on the pod, they were very excited. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. I'm very
No pressure.
nervous, but
No
okay.
pressure. This is just relaxing. We're hanging out. We're on the
Yeah.
couch. We're just
We're
chilling.
on the couch. I'm petting a dog.
Yeah, what's not to love? Okay,
Yeah.
so the question I asked everyone, do you remember when we first met? Which would be the day of
When
my
you were
birth.
born. Yes, it was very traumatic.
Because I've heard mom tell this story many times. I don't know if I've ever heard it from anyone else's perspective.
I don't remember a lot. My memory is not as good long ago as it used to be. I'm waiting for Alzheimer's or something to kick in where I can remember
No.
the past but not the future. Anyway, what I recall was your mom was really upset because it ended up being cesarean
Mm-hmm.
and she really wanted to do natural.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, back in those days, when I tried to be helpful to your mom, she didn't appreciate it. So I was kicked out.
Oh, jeez.
So we waited, and then we had this wonderful little girl. So
Aww.
that's the first time I met you. And uh, your grandfather was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there, and it was nice. We
Aww.
we had a granddaughter,
Oh, that's so
and that was you.
cute. So were you there? Because I know I was born at night. Were you there, like, at
Yes,
night?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I went and I stayed, but I was more in the waiting room than
Yeah.
in the room with your mom and Jim,
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah. I know who he is.
Okay.
Oh, and so you and Grandpa were there together. It wasn't just you.
Uh I can't remember where Grandpa was. I think he was there. Yeah, I think we were both there. We were
Okay.
both a little. We're going to be grandparents.
Oh, because you guys are so
We
young.
were very young. Yeah,
That's
we
why I
were.
tell people
I
I'm
was
like,
in what? I was 45.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which is
Grandpa was
like,
48.
yeah,
That
these
was really
days,
young then,
yeah.
because
Oh,
I think nowadays women are having
I
babies at
was,
that
I
age.
was gonna
So,
say that. I remember I had a kid in one of my classes. His dad was the same age as you.
hmm
And so I was like, that's what my grandma is.
yeah. Well, back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot. Still, not a whole lot of choices for women.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us were either going to college to become some kind of a professional,
Mm-hmm.
and that took a lot
Mm-hmm.
because they weren't, taking too many professional women
Yeah.
in the workforce, or you go to college to find your husband.
Yeah.
And I
I've heard
happened to
that.
find mine before then, so I didn't need to go to college. So I didn't until I was older, and then I
Yeah.
did some um, child life and
Mm-hmm.
humanities type of thing,
Yeah.
and music.
You graduated? Or you just took some
No, I
classes?
probably was shy of graduating. I wasn't going for a degree as so much as just for
Education.
education,
Yeah.
information, taking classes that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I say, I
Nice.
took a lot of music classes.
Did you know that
So
your grandson recently graduated from college?
I did hear that. Yes, I was very happy to hear that he did
Yeah.
graduate from college. Of course, one of our biggest days was when you graduated
Yeah.
from Chico State. That
Mm-hmm.
was because I know my dad also had some college.
Yeah.
So, but nobody really had
Yeah.
graduated until you
I
did.
know.
And now
It's
Jake, so
crazy.
that's
Yeah.
great.
To think that, like, I mean, not to downgrade Jake's achievements, but the fact that I'm like the only person in our family to have graduated a 4
Right.
year university. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have
Like,
to say that your grandfather and I were extremely,
yeah.
extremely proud.
I
And of course, we were proud of you all.
yeah.
Yeah, you were the child that grandpa could spend time with because he was always working with his own. So,
Yeah. No, we had it was nice cuz I was the only granddaughter.
You are the
and the
only granddaughter.
oldest. So that was I got to
Yes.
have a different experience than the other two.
Right. Right. And you were happy times because we
Mhm.
used to spend a lot of time together,
Oh
you and
yeah.
I. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's really,
Yeah, I remember
yeah.
like being little and like you were my daycare
Yes.
for
Yeah.
like a long time, summer vacations and stuff. When I was in school and then before I
Right.
was in school.
Right. Well, your mom and I kind of agreed that it would be nice to have you raised
Mhm.
by family as opposed to,
Yeah.
strangers. So we started relaxing a bit after that.
Yeah.
Jake had more other
He
daycares
did. Yeah.
than he had some with me, but
Mhm.
not as much as you did.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Chance had quite a bit with me.
Mhm. Yeah. I was really funny. I was telling somebody one time. I was like, "Yeah, my mom would drop me off at her mom's house, and then when I was really little, she would drop me off at her mom's house."
Right. I remember the stories from my mom saying that, yeah, Emilee and I walked down to the gas station
Yeah.
and she had her little purse and she held my hand. And yeah, I remember
we
those
we
stories.
got Kit Kat bars. That was the
Yes,
thing
Kit
that
Kat
we.
bars. Yeah, because I did take a part time job at that time.
Mhm. So it was
So
like,
when I would go into the office, you would go to my mother.
which I think is like so cute. It's just like passing me up the tree.
Yeah, up the tree. Yeah. I imagine you learned a lot of little lessons from my mother.
Oh jeez. I just remember complaining about the smoke. She always
Yes.
smoked.
And it's a funny thing about that smoking thing
Mhm.
is after she had her slight heart issue
Mhm.
and they had her in the medical coma for a couple of days, she never smoked again, and
That's
she was
crazy.
a good 3 pack a day smoker.
Wow. It's really funny because when like somebody can walk by and they smell and I'm like they smoked the same cigarettes that she did. Like I
Yeah,
still have that memory
yeah,
of like what she
yeah.
smelled like.
Benson and Hedges. Yeah, yeah. Well, when me and my brother and sister were younger, we
Mhm.
used to be able to go across the street to the store
Mhm.
or down to Garotti's deli and get her cigarettes for her. But that was back in the day when
Yeah.
just a little note would work.
This is for my mom, I promise.
Yeah. But then she got me hooked on it when I was younger. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, in my generation, we experimented with smoking. We didn't smoke so much the other stuff, but we did experiment with cigarettes.
Yeah.
And so there were some neighbor kids, and we used to steal mom's
Oh
cigarettes.
my
And
gosh. How old were you?
16.
Okay.
Yeah, not, I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't teeny, but a young
Yeah.
person then, but yeah.
When when did you become like a regular smoker from that then? Like
Probably about that time because I
okay.
remember I was a smoker when I got married
Yeah.
and when I met your grandpa's family and everything.
Mhm.
I smoked then,
Yeah.
and everybody kind of put up with it because
Mhm.
no,
Well, it's
they
the
didn't. So
times. Like
yeah, they didn't smoke, and I tried
yeah.
to be nice about it, but and they were nice about it, so
Yeah.
it worked. And then I think it was in 91.
Mhm.
My boss and I at the time just said, well, we want to quit. And
Mhm.
so I bundled up my cigarettes and threw them in the garbage can and
That
haven't
was
smoked since.
that was the end.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
That you just
that was,
decided to make a change and you did it.
well, I wasn't going to be the first one to smoke again. See, I did it with somebody else, and I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be the first one to smoke again. And then by the time my boss decided that she was going to smoke again, I go, I really don't need to start it up
Yeah.
again. So
Awesome.
I never did.
Wow. Oh,
Oh,
one thing I was going to ask cuz I've been wanting to do like a legacy video. I've been wanting to do this for years of like sitting
uh-huh.
down and interviewing you and asking you
Mm-hmm.
questions. But I figured, hey, the podcast might be like a good gateway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you are one of few people in our family that like you grew up in a split household.
Yes, I
I've
did.
never really asked you about that.
Yeah. I I
Like,
I did. I I lived with my mother and her second husband.
What was his name?
His name was Earl.
Okay.
And during that time, my mom had two other children, a
Mhm.
boy and a girl,
Mhm.
Earl and Karen.
Mhm.
And then I don't remember so much about what went on in their marriage. I guess I was too young because I think I was about
Yeah.
9.
Okay.
And I just remember coming home from school one day and my mother telling me I was going to go live with my father and a new stepmother. And I go,
Oh
no.
my gosh. That's
And
traumatic.
I remember Earl's father,
Yeah.
her husband,
Mhm.
coming in and telling me that he was very sorry that it had to happen that way. And so
That's
then I went to
wow.
go and live with my dad
Mhm.
and a new stepmother. And she had she was a widow when my dad married her, and she
Mhm.
had 2 children. She lost her husband in the war.
Okay.
And so I had a stepbrother and a stepsister who were older.
Mhm.
And then my dad and my stepmother had 2 girls.
Mhm.
So I became a middle child.
Oh my goodness.
I lived with them until I was about this summer I was 16. I
So it
turned
was a little
16 when
while.
I was um, going to be a senior in high school.
Mhm.
And my dad was moving at that time. He was moving up. He bought a resort up in the mountains.
Mm.
So I could either move with him up to the mountains up by Lake Almanor,
Uh-huh.
or I could stay with my mother.
Okay.
So my mother said, well, if you stay with me, I can hire you to be a babysitter for me and you can take care of your younger brother
Hmm.
and sister. So I said, okay, that's fine. Well, she never actually paid anything,
That doesn't surprise me.
but I but I did end up taking care of my brother and sister.
Cuz
So, and I went to San Rafael High.
legacy.
Yes, I've always been a Bay Area girl.
Mhm.
Because when I was actually born, I was born in San Francisco
Mhm.
and lived in Fairfax.
Mhm.
So, um, so anyway, at that time, I took care of them, and
Mhm. Was there like a lot of communication back and forth? So like when you were living with your dad, did you still keep in contact with your siblings that were with your mom or and vice
no,
versa?
no,
So when you came back, they were like old and you're like, "Hey."
they were older, but they see my sister, younger sister
Mhm.
is 8 years younger than I am. My brother is 9 years younger than
Yeah.
I mean 7 years younger than I am.
Mhm.
So they were more kids
Yeah.
still when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
So that made it a lot easier
Okay.
to go into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, my dad and my stepmother, they lived in Palo Alto, Menlo Park, Woodside, in that
Mhm.
area. And my mom was still down here in Marin.
Yeah.
And even though my dad had family here, he didn't come down a lot. And when
Yeah.
he came down to Marin is when
Mhm.
I saw my mom.
Okay. Okay. Cuz is am I remembering this correctly that your aunt actually lived down the street from where you live now?
My dad's sister,
Yeah.
yes, lived 2 streets down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and she had 5 children as well.
Yeah.
So
Helen,
yeah,
right? Aunt Helen.
Helen. Yeah.
Mhm.
So and everybody in Marin knows the.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the.
It's funny. I might edit this out, but it's so funny because works in the industry
Mm-hmm.
and like he calls and comes in and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my grandma's cousin.
Yes,
So
it is.
when he calls, I'm like, oh, is that my cousin?
It's funny because I don't see much of my dad's side of the family at all anymore.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'll meet somebody at Joe's and run into my cousin.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And my cousin
Uh-huh.
used to work at Orchard,
Yes.
and every so often, your grandpa'd go in
Uh-huh.
and see,
That's
and
so funny.
yeah, that's
It's
how we kept
yeah.
in touch with those. But they've all kind of moved away and moved
Yeah.
on with their lives and
Yeah.
what have you.
It
So
happens.
yeah,
It's hard because it from the family picnics that we had when I was young. It was just there were
Yeah.
so many people. You had
Lots and
so
lots.
many
Yeah.
cousins. It was just like,
Yeah.
and then the cousins start having kids and grandkids and great grandkids.
And
It's
we
hard to keep
lost
it
kind of,
straight.
yeah, hard to keep them straight.
I mean, because I consider myself like the family historian, and I don't even know all of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
overwhelming amount of family.
Well, I do know that I had an uncle and two cousins
Mm-hmm.
born on the same day I was. I mean,
What?
not the same year, but the same
Yeah,
day,
the same
October
day of the
22nd. Yeah.
calendar.
So we always kind
Wow.
of teased each other when we had those family reunions.
That's funny. Because
Yeah.
your cousins were like around the same age or older, right? Isn't that kind
Mostly
of
older.
yeah,
There were then and were the same age as
twins.
then they were twins and they were the same age as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one more younger cousin.
Okay.
The were always into sports and everything, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Marin's not that big of a place, so
No.
it's like you start meeting people, and it's like they know the people that you know, and then it's just like this whole
Yeah.
big
And
web.
it's funny because, every now and again I'll run into somebody and I go, "Oh, we're neighbors."
Yeah. That happens to me at work because I see people's addresses.
Mhm.
So it's just like I'm like, "Oh, we're like you live down the street." And here it happened here. I was like, "Oh, my grandparents live at 209." And they're like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "You know the one with the little house in the front?" The lady goes, "I know who they are." And I couldn't tell if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Like, you know them in a good way or
Well, we kind of keep to ourselves, so.
yeah. It's a big small area,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
We could talk about all the travels that we've been on together.
Oh, we've been on lots of travels. You're my travel buddy.
Yeah, because people
Yeah.
always are like, "You're traveling so much. Did you travel as a kid?" And I was like, "Only with my grandma."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in some ways is my my daughter kind of grew up to be a little bit more tomboyish,
Mhm.
and she didn't really care to go traveling around.
Mhm.
And I love to travel, and
As
I'm
do
ready to
I.
go at any time.
Yeah.
I'll pack a bag
Yeah.
quick. Well, it all started when you were a little baby and grandpa used to carry you around. Yeah, the
Yeah.
back carriers and fit on like a backpack.
Mhm.
And he started taking you around. And so I think you were about 6 years old. I mean, 6 months old
Mhm.
when he suggested that we take you to Disneyland. And that was your first trip to Disneyland. And we've
Mhm.
been going many times since then. We've done
Yes.
Disneyland, World, and
Mhm.
Paris.
Mhm.
Yes.
Lots of
So,
good adventures. Yeah, I
yeah.
grandpa had the pack. That's like what
Grandpa
I
had the pack, a red
a
backpack.
red
I
North Face
always took
backpack.
it.
Yep. And it was
Yeah.
like, can you put this in the pack?
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't
Yeah.
much do any of the rides or anything else. He people watched while we were in
Uh-huh.
Disneyland.
And I remember very distinctly when we were in Disney World. It was just the three of us.
Hmm.
And we were in Animal Kingdom, which had just opened. So it was our first time there and just started pouring rain. Like downpour.
Hmm.
The streets are
Yeah.
flooded and we lost Grandpa. And I was so worried about him. I'm like, we gotta make sure we get the transportation back to the hotel, and I don't know if he's gonna make it.
Well, every time we'd go on a ride or do anything or go into a store or whatever, we'd leave him in a certain
Yeah,
place. And when we come out, he
he was
wouldn't be
gone.
there. He'd be somewhere else. And he used to always do that at Santa Cruz as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he just kind of,
I was like, where's
we'd have to go
Grandpa?
look for him.
I just remember that time being so concerned. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
But we found him. He was back at the hotel. He beat us back.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, he got tired of people watching.
Yeah. Well, when it's
So,
raining, it's not
yeah.
as much fun.
So then as I got older and you got older, we started
Mm-hmm.
doing more world traveling.
Yeah, when I graduated college, we went to Europe.
Yeah, we went to Europe.
That was my first
Mhm.
taste of
Mhm.
overseas.
And we went to Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
England,
And Paris.
France.
We're just talking about
Yeah.
this at work actually,
Yeah.
about all of our travels in Europe and
Yeah.
like going to the Louvre
Mm-hmm.
and like what our
Oh
experiences
yeah.
were like there.
Wow. It's so huge to
I
live.
know.
It
It's like
takes.
overwhelmingly large.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
can't even
Yeah. You can't see it all in one day, or I don't even know
year.
if you could do it in a week or so.
Because
Yeah.
there's some fact, I'm gonna get this wrong, but it's like if you spent 1 second in front of every piece of art, it would still take you like 4 years to see everything, or something ridiculous
Yeah.
like that. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's actually the
Well, the I got
fact.
a book that has all of the paintings
Mm-hmm.
from the Louvre. Now this is paintings,
Paintings only.
and it's probably at least 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
So, and that's
Yikes.
like something on each page,
Mm-hmm.
not even a
Yeah.
chapter on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we did see the Mona Lisa.
We did. I pushed through. I have a selfie of me, like after I
Yeah,
pushed through all those people to get to the
yeah,
front.
and we saw the Wings of Victory.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, and much, much
oh
more.
yeah,
But
of course.
yeah,
Because we
yeah,
did a guided tour of the
yeah,
Louvre. We knew that we couldn't
yeah.
direct
We hit the
ourselves.
highlights. Yeah,
I
yeah.
just remember I had like just read and watched Da Vinci Code for the first time before we
Oh
left.
wow.
And so there's one of the paintings that's in the movie and it's a Da Vinci and nobody cared. It's like everyone cares about the Mona Lisa and just
Mm-hmm.
down the hall is this one and I'm like this
Mm-hmm.
is my favorite painting in the Louvre and nobody understands because I had read
Yeah,
the book.
yeah. And then you went with me, didn't we? When we went to Versailles, and
Mhm.
we went
Oh my
to
gosh, Versailles.
oh, opulent,
I,
opulence.
I loved it so much that when I went back to Europe again, I made sure that we went because I was like, we
Mm,
have to do this.
yeah. And we went to Monet's
Mm-hmm.
house. That was amazing. I mean, there was so much art
Yeah.
everywhere on the floor, hanging on the
Yep.
walls.
And just
Yeah.
to like see the countryside, because
Oh,
I
and
know
his
that,
gardens were.
um, like Paris is not France, is what I've heard people say. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, to go outside of the city and
Mm-hmm.
get a completely different taste of the country.
Yeah.
And so to drive through, it felt very like we're in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Like,
was great.
yeah,
It was
and
great.
to see like what he painted,
Yeah.
like he painted his house and his gardens and all that. We're like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
was there.
And you actually could look at it and say, "Oh, this is what he was
Yeah.
something he was looking at when he did it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that's the closest I've ever come to big art,
Mm-hmm.
big artist,
Yeah.
well-known
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah, he's a
So,
big deal.
yeah,
Claude.
yeah. So we've been to Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Scotland on our bucket
On the
list.
radar, yes. Do you remember? This is the closest I've ever come to not making a flight.
Mm.
When we were leaving Paris because we were at Disneyland and we were waiting for our car and our
Hmm.
car never showed up.
Oh gosh, yes. We had a limo that was supposed to come back
Not
for
a
us.
limo, it was just a car.
But it was through a limousine
A
service.
service,
We
but
had a car and a
you're
driver.
making it sound
And
like
it was the Lincoln Town Car type
yes, there
thing.
we go.
And it was supposed to pick us up at the hotel, and
Yep.
we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and
We
it
waited
never
an
showed.
hour.
And finally we went back in and they called us a taxi.
Mm-hmm.
And we got refunded for that. So,
Well, that's good
yeah.
because that was ridiculous. And
Yeah, and we just made it.
we show up to the airport and it was the longest security line I've ever
Oh
seen in
gosh,
my
yes.
entire life. It wrapped around the whole airport like twice. And I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, I can't believe we're gonna miss our flight.
And then didn't we have to walk miles to get
That's what
to
it
the
felt
to the
like.
gate?
So we're
Yeah,
like trying to, walk
trying to find it.
to our gate.
And of course, we didn't have much to
Oh
carry
my
on with us, did we?
god. It's like the Charles de Gaulle Airport is like one of the
Yeah,
biggest, and
yeah,
so we're trying to get to our gate. We barely made it. We sat down and they closed the door. And I
yeah,
was like, oh my God.
yeah,
And because we were meeting Annie Karen and mom in Dublin.
yeah,
And so it was
yeah,
like important for us to make sure we made that flight
yeah.
and to land at the same time as them.
Right. right?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
they didn't want to go to Paris with
No.
us. And now they're sorry.
No, it was good just to
Yeah.
have me and you
Yeah. It's
time.
always good to have you, me and you time.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
and then
then as far as my traveling goes,
you've been all over.
Grandpa and I did a couple of trips together, and
Hmm.
then he started working for making weather stations
This is
to send up
yeah, I
balloons.
remember this was like a funny like family joke. It was like he's the one that doesn't want to go anywhere and he got this
Right,
great
and
job and he went everywhere.
he went to India, he went to Africa, and I got to go to China with him.
Hmm.
They didn't want me to go to Africa or
Which
India because it wasn't as safe
where he was.
for a woman.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to go to those, and I just miss going to Germany.
Yeah. Because he went to Frankfurt. I remember that. And
Yeah,
that was one
he
of his
was there,
first ones.
and they finished the job early, and my plane wasn't supposed to leave until a few days after they finished. So he just came home, and
Yeah. Rats.
yeah,
Well, we'll take you back. We'll go.
yeah. I'm going back to Germany. Yeah, definitely. That's on my list too. But I think Scotland's first.
Yeah. And then I remember he was like supposed to go to like Chile or something and but it was the elevation was too high, so
Yeah,
they didn't want him to
yeah,
come.
yeah. Well, he started getting older,
Yeah.
and the elevations were getting
Oh my
higher, and the
gosh.
terrain was
Yeah.
harder. And he was supposed to go to Antarctica as
I
well.
remember that too and I got so excited. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
and that one didn't work out as
'Cause that's
well.
like
And now he just builds some of their equipment for him
mhm.
here. He
Yeah.
doesn't go on the road,
Which
which
is
is sad. Because
yeah.
I still enjoy it.
Yeah, cuz it was like what? Like once a year and he would
Mhm.
go to the place to
Or
build
every
it
other year.
and then like
Yeah.
go to take it down
Yeah.
and then go to the
Yeah.
next place and
Yeah.
that was
But I have to tell that I thoroughly enjoyed my trip to China when I went with him.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to go on the Great
That's
Wall
so
and
cool.
see a lot of the stuff there
Yeah.
in Beijing and the Emperor's Palace and all those.
Mhm.
It was great. The people in China that I met
Mhm.
through the tour I had
Yeah.
were very, very nice.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you like really enjoying that when you
Yeah,
came
that
home
was
and
really, really
because
nice.
it was shortly after the Olympics, right? That were in
Yes.
Beijing, the
They
2008
We
games.
went by some of the
Mhm.
stadiums, and they still had some merchandise left over. So, yeah, it was just after the Olympics. But yeah, I went on a tour, and I thought I was going to have other people with me, but it
Mhm.
ended up just being me and a tour guide and a driver.
That's
So that was
amazing.
just, yeah,
Private tour
a
just for
private
you.
tour of China. Yeah, Beijing.
Yes. Yeah, China's a big country.
Yeah,
You just went to a little bit
Beijing.
of it. But that's awesome.
So,
I'm jealous.
yeah,
Yeah, we went to DC in 2007.
yeah, wow.
And that was, I know, a long time ago now. But
Yeah,
that was fun.
yeah,
That was really fun. We talked about it for years. I mean, we still talk about it, but
yeah,
it was like the highlight of our lives for like
yeah,
probably all through high school. Remember when we went to
yeah.
DC? Remember we were young? Remember so long ago? And we went, I was talking about the other day, um, I call it the most random trip I've ever been on, is we went to Atlanta.
Mm.
I can't remember even when it was. I was probably like 7 or 8.
My brother was there. My
Yeah.
brother lived there. My stepbrother.
But it was, I thought it was so
Yeah,
funny that like you took me. I don't know.
yeah.
It just seemed,
I don't think anybody else wanted to go.
oh. And I was just like,
I
oh,
know
take
your mom
Emilee.
didn't because she didn't like to travel with me
Yeah.
at that time. She liked to be home.
Yeah, she still
She still
does.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jinx.
yeah.
We can get her more easily now to come with us places.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, we had a great time when we went, just the three of us,
oh my
down to Anaheim.
gosh, your birthday
Yeah,
trip. That was so
yeah,
much fun. We could
yeah.
talk about that. Where were we going? I think it was our previous Disney trip or something and I was like, we should go for your birthday. And I was like in my
Yeah.
head planning this whole thing, and then I'm like, we
Yeah.
should invite mom. Call mom right now.
Oh, and we did.
I
And
was
we
like,
did. And we
call
and we
mom,
made
invite
her
her.
promise to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the three of us drove down and
Yeah, it was a whole
mhm.
road trip thing, and we
Yeah.
did like LA stuff, and then we drove down, and then did
Yeah.
Disneyland for your birthday, and
Yeah. We did more than just Disneyland because
yeah,
um we try to make it so that there was something for everybody.
exactly.
And we went Universal Studios for the
The city walk for mom.
for the city walk for the dinosaurs.
Yeah, my mom's a big Jurassic Park fan, so we did that for her, and we
Yeah.
had hot dogs at Pink's,
Pinks. Yeah.
the famous hot dog place, and we
Yeah.
went to the Tam O'Shanter, which is like famous in
Yeah.
Disney lore.
Yeah.
Um,
His one of his favorite restaurants, and
mm-hmm. And that was fun.
he used to work there sometimes.
Yeah,
He had his own table.
his booth. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did that, and that was a cute little place
Yeah.
down over in LA. And we went to the Academy Museum
Yes, we did.
in Los Angeles. Um, yeah, that was a really good time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
like specific. Mom and I going to Coffee Bean.
Yes, every morning. Yes, they found a new place to
Yeah.
go. What was the drink that the coffee? Something can't butter or
Cookie butter
cookie
latte.
butter.
And so when I was in Las Vegas, they had a Coffee Bean in the airport, and I was like, oh my god, I have to go. I have to get my cookie butter latte.
Did they have it?
Yeah. I thought it might have been just a seasonal thing, but
Uh-huh.
I think it's on their permanent menu, and it's so good. So anybody who's near a Coffee Bean needs to go check out the cookie butter latte. It's amazing.
That was funny.
And then Mom and I kept quoting that one video of the girl reading the word
Oh
who,
gosh.
and she goes, "What?"
Yeah, we walked all the way.
What? Oh my gosh, Mom kept saying it, and then oh my gosh, so silly.
But a good time.
Oh yeah, I mean we
Together,
used
yeah.
to do when I was younger. We used to do stuff the three of us a lot more.
Yeah.
Just go to lunch or go to the mall
Yeah.
or do this or do that.
Mm.
It was easy to hang out with the three of
Yeah.
us. And then it kind
Yeah.
of became me and you or me and mom
Yeah. Exactly.
instead of all three of us. So that was
So-
good, like getting the gang back together.
Yeah. So now I'm looking forward to Canada.
Yeah, we're going
Been
to
to
Canada.
Vancouver a bit, but not
Anywhere else in Canada?
um
Because you've been
yeah.
cruising.
Yeah.
Have you been anywhere like I don't even know how that works. I can't visualize a map in my head right now.
Yeah, no, there was another place up there we went, and all I remember
Victoria.
is there we go,
Yeah.
Victoria. Yeah.
And,
I'd like to go there again. I love the Empress Hotel and having tea there
yeah.
and seeing the stuff and
Mhm.
you know, I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind. We took a bus tour. I was with Karen,
Mhm.
and we took a
Your
bus
sister,
tour,
yeah.
and boy, we some old English style,
Mhm.
farmhouses and stuff. Oh, it was so much
I
fun.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the countryside.
we were supposed to plan a trip to do just that. We're going to go to Seattle and Vancouver, which they're not like that close, but they're close enough where we could have
Mhm.
done both. That was going to be our next trip, and then the pandemic hit, so we had to
Yeah.
like bail on those plans. And
Yeah.
then we ended up just going to Seattle, and we could make that actually happen.
Mhm.
So I was like, dang, one day I'm going to get to Canada. I've never
Mhm.
been. I'm like, it's right there.
Yeah,
So I decided for my birthday I was going to just make it happen and finally go.
yeah. Well, I'm excited to go to the Stampede. I
Yeah.
really am. That
I hope
it's always
fun.
I can barely remember my mother's mother
Hmm.
and father taking me to. There used to be a rodeo in the little valley by White's Hill in Fairfax,
Okay.
and they used to take me a time or two,
Mhm.
and I can barely remember that, but I do remember one time one of the bulls got loose, and my grandmother getting very excited.
I had the complete opposite reaction of that. I was like, "Oh my god, what?"
Yeah. So, but that's a vague memory. But
Yeah.
yeah, there used to be a rodeo. So I think I've always been fascinated
Yeah.
by that the rodeo type thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. You want to talk
So,
about your grandmother a little bit?
um, I didn't know too much about either one of my grandmothers. My one grandmother that lived here in
Mhm.
Marin was a housekeeper not far from here,
Mhm.
from where I live now.
Mhm.
And she was there for years and years and years. And she
Mhm.
was just, they were like her family. And
Mhm.
she was a live in housekeeper.
Wow.
And I will remember the first time my grandmother went to Disneyland.
Oh, tell the story.
Um, I was probably maybe 10, 11
Mhm.
in that area. And my dad took us all down to
That's
Disneyland
so
for
exciting.
the first time. And my grandmother and I were seat partners on the Matterhorn bobsled.
Oh my goodness.
My grandmother laughed so hard through the whole thing. And when we got off the bobsled, I noticed that she's kind of ruffling her dress and waving the back of her dress and everything. And we said, Grandma, what's wrong? And she said, I laughed so hard I peed my pants. So I'll never forget that. That was Grandma.
That's so
She
cute.
was just the sweetest. And she used to teach me canasta. And
Mhm.
we used to always play and have
That's fun.
M&Ms and play canasta.
Aw.
Yeah. And then my other grandmother, she basically lived in Indiana and Iowa.
Mhm.
So I didn't really see them very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was known for something.
Oh, the kleptomania thing? Oh, yeah, you already talked about that.
Only if you want. I don't want to incriminate anyone on this
Well,
podcast.
they've gone now, so that won't hurt them. But it's funny. My grandmother would go to a
I
restaurant
love
all the
this.
time, and she always had this big, huge pocketbook, and it was her pocketbook. It wasn't a handbag or a purse, it was her pocketbook. And she always made my grandfather and Rick hold it for her. And then she would just very quietly sweep everything off the table into her pocketbook,
Oh my
silverware, salt, pepper, jams, jellies, whatever. And she said, well, they expect you to take it. And then I'll never forget, she passed that on to my mother.
Mhm.
And my mother was a bit that way as well.
Mhm.
And my sister was getting married,
Oh goodness.
and my mother had my daughter
Uh-huh.
stand guard at the women's restroom while my mother took the ashtrays. And she said the same thing. Well, they expect you to take them.
Yeah.
That's why they put their name on it. So yeah, it was kleptomania in
Yeah.
its pure form. But yeah, my grandmother, I'll never forget when she would always come out here from Indiana
Mhm.
or Iowa,
Mhm.
and she would have suitcases, and we'd have to carry them up the stairs. And Grandma, what is in your suitcase? It's so heavy. She brought all the canned goods.
Oh my
She says,
goodness.
well, I didn't know if you had any of that out here in California. So she brought all this
Oh my
canned goods,
gosh.
suitcases full of canned goods,
Oh,
just in case we didn't have it out
we
here.
got the fresh stuff over here in California. Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
remember that was the joke. It was like, well, if it's not nailed down,
Right. We
you can
still laugh
take it.
about that at dinners, don't we?
I
Yeah.
mean, because I've taken a fork here or there, so it's just
Yeah.
that's why I say I was like, oh, it runs in the family.
Yeah. Oh, I think we didn't. You guys get
No,
a
let's
no,
just
no, 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 no.
we don't
Okay.
have, we don't have to
Won't
talk
go
about
there.
it. If you're curious, I'll tell you, but I'm not gonna put it on the podcast. Some things have happened, yes.
Yes.
And I'm not
But
the
not
only
like
one.
my mother and my
No.
grandmother.
No, not
Yeah.
it wasn't a full table sweep. Let's put it that
This
way.
my grandmother was full table sweep.
I love it. I love it. I love like hearing the little quirk stories
Yeah.
of, cuz so easily it can just be like, they were born this day, they got married this
Right,
day, and
right.
then that was
Well,
it.
like I say, my memory is not as good as I wish it could be, but there are a few things I remember,
Yeah,
and
so I like
that's one of them.
hearing about that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. And like, times before me, it's like
right,
obviously I wasn't around as long as you were, so
right. That's why the online stuff, Ancestry,
mhm.
is such a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, to see that is, and just finding out, just
Yeah.
today, actually seeing a marriage certificate for my mother, that she was
Yeah.
married before my father,
Yep.
and didn't tell us until she was um in a rest home, and
Yep.
she said, "Oh yeah, I was married before." And we said, "Why didn't you say
What?
anything?" And she said,
Yeah.
"None of your business." So yeah, she was. So I always wonder if somewhere around
You got more siblings
I've
out
got more
there?
siblings than I know about.
That I would not be
Yeah.
surprised.
So now that I have the full name of the gentleman that she
Mhm.
married from the marriage license, I'm going to look him up and see if he looks like, in the one picture I have, he looks
Mhm.
like he was a sailor.
Mhm.
So
That's quite
I'm going to look up
possible.
and see if he was in the war, because I know my dad was.
Yeah. I mean, it would only make sense that he was
Yeah.
cuz everybody was.
And that was, wartime was, I think, one of my two claims to fame. I was
Mhm.
published twice in the Marin IJ,
Woohoo.
as with my father and mother,
Mhm.
with my dad going off to war, and when my
Mhm.
dad
Oh
came home.
yeah, I forgot about that. I've
Yeah,
seen that newspaper
yeah,
picture of you
yeah,
three. Oh my gosh.
yeah. Because dad was, when they were married, they lived down here in Marin,
Mhm.
and dad was a motorcycle cops
Mhm.
back when they had the old funny looking three wheelers. Yeah, and then he went off to war and
Mhm.
came back and became a fireman.
Mhm.
So,
He did it all. He
yeah,
really did.
yeah. So, that one, and then I can vaguely remember that I was on TV at one time, um,
Grandma's famous.
with Donald Duck, a program that was featured Donald Duck products,
Mhm.
especially Donald Duck orange juice,
Mhm.
and it was a kind of a quiz show.
Mm.
So,
I know. I've tried to
my
hunt
my
down
yeah, my
things.
claims to fame.
Yeah. Those are both
Mm,
big.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now that I'm retired, I'm busier than ever.
I know. Oh my goodness. I know. Trying to schedule just this podcast, it took like 3 weeks. I was like, when do you have time when I have time?
Well,
It's
that's
like,
not just on me.
I know.
When can you come over this weekend? Oh, I'm booked for the next 3 weekends, Grandma. Okay. What did you
It's
need? Oh, I was going to get some help with something.
it just was one of those things where in December, everybody wanted to hang out with me, and I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't stop. I was like, hey, I kind of like this.
It's so important. It's so important, the connections, the human connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
So,
need to take time for that.
mm-hmm. And so
Yeah.
I've said this before, but I'm really thankful for the podcast because it's forced me even more so to like hang out with people and be like, hey,
Yeah.
you need to come over so we can record an
Yeah.
episode of my
Yeah.
podcast. And so that's been really awesome to have that. I
Right.
mean, even now, like, I don't know if I would have come over and done all of
Well,
that
you
with you.
might have,
I
because I
probably would
needed your help again.
have. Never mind, I probably would have. But we're like,
And I have a dog that
that's true. Woody needs to see me.
Yeah.
um, made a more conscious effort to like sit
Yes.
down and have a
And
conversation with some.
conversation that
Yeah.
didn't necessarily revolve around Disney, or,
Yeah.
what we were doing right at the minute. Yeah.
Exactly. Or our next trip that we were
Yeah.
planning because we've done
Our
that
next
before.
trip, yeah. I have to plan one.
Yeah. Yeah, because what
Yeah.
keeps happening is we're going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then meanwhile, other people are
Yeah. Yeah.
booking trips with me too. So it's hard to.
Yeah. Well, especially now that you're working at such a secure and
Yeah.
regulated hour job that,
Mm-hmm.
as you aren't quite as free to change your schedule around as you
True.
used to be.
Yeah.
So,
That was nice. Where it was just
yeah.
like, oh, let me just switch my hours. Or when I was
Yeah.
completely unemployed, that made it really
Yeah.
easy to travel.
Yeah.
We made, I knew that too. So I was like, hey, Jake, do you want to go to Disney World with me?
Yeah.
And then we kind of were like, yeah, like when works. And then I was like, you know what? We can't go to Disney World without grandma.
Yeah, and that was a great time. I have to tell you,
I
I never
know.
enjoyed Disney World so much as when I went with my two
And it
grandchildren.
was so funny. You said you and Jake drank around the world
I
in
did drink
Epcot.
around the world.
And you were like, I've had more fun with my adult grandkids than I did with my kid
Yeah,
grandkids. And I was like,
exactly.
what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Excuse me? I got a little bit offended in that moment. But then I was like, well, I'm going to be an adult for the rest of my life. So hopefully she likes me as an adult too. But yeah, that was a really good time
Yeah.
because we just got to go, and
Yeah, it
first
was.
time in 10 years we had been,
Right.
um, and just kind of do it relaxed
Yeah.
as
We did
adults.
lots of stuff, but we were more adulting.
Mm-hmm. With alcohol
Yeah.
is what you were meant by
Well,
that.
well, it wasn't so much as we all could concentrate on things that were more adult oriented
Yeah.
than finding the rides or
Yeah.
standing in
And the
line
characters
for,
and yeah.
Alice in Wonderland and
Mm-hmm.
stuff we could do, we
Yeah,
could
that's true. That's
choose,
true.
pick and choose more
Mm-hmm.
to do. Like,
And it was,
yeah,
yeah, we got to have more healthy communication rather than
right.
like,
Yeah.
the kids is what the kids want to do.
Whining and
Yeah.
crying and needing naps
There was a
and,
little bit of that,
yeah.
but
Well, there always is. We all need naps.
yeah. No, we had a lot of fun. I think we were a little bit overbooked with the stuff we were doing because the way vacation planning works with Disney World, it's like you have to have everything scheduled before you
Yeah,
go. So
that's the
it
hard
was like
part.
we're trying to get the most,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I didn't, we didn't rest as much as I think we would have normally.
Right,
We would have had
right,
like a pool day,
right.
which we didn't, but it is what it is. We just
No,
have to
we
go
did have
back.
a little pool time in our favorite pool with the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite place to stay, the yacht club.
Mm-hmm. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah,
And we've always stayed there.
yeah. We
I
always,
One time we stayed at the Swan.
yes, when you were
Yeah.
younger. Yeah.
When I was a wee little one. But the other couple of times we got to Disney World, we always stay at the yacht club, not the beach club, the yacht
No,
club,
yacht club.
and take the boats. I
Hmm.
love that. I'm like, oh, let's just hop on a boat and go to Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, that's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Keeps it interesting rather than just bussing everywhere, or even if some people drive, so it's like they drive to the
Right, right.
parks and stuff.
Although that's a nice thing about Disney in when it's so spread out like
Mm-hmm.
that. They have transportation to just
Mm-hmm.
about everywhere, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and then you can go somewhere and then take a bus to somewhere else,
Hmm.
and then keep going. Resort hop.
Well, there was a time when we did. I think it was during their 25th anniversary
Mm-hmm.
of Disney World. We took transportation to all of the resorts.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I was a little bit too young.
you were young, yeah.
I was, yeah, baby. But I remember the pictures.
Yeah.
Because we had the picture because it was you, me, grandpa, and mom
Hmm.
that all went.
Well, I think Jake was there too, only he
In
was
utero.
not present.
He doesn't remember.
He had no voice.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time from the
I don't think
pictures.
we've ever had a bad time down there.
No, I was gonna. Yeah, that's true. It's always a good time when we go. And then I remember when we were leaving Disney World, I was like, all right, we're going to do this in another 10 years?
Well, I think as we were leaving Disney World, we were talking about going to
Oh,
Tokyo.
that's true. That's true. I forgot about that. We were saying that was going to be our next
Yes, we
Disney trip.
promised to go to Tokyo,
I know.
which is supposed to be this year because we all
Our
have
big birthday
big
years.
birthdays. Yeah.
Yep. Ay, ay,
Yeah.
ay.
So I think we're going to be celebrating in Canada instead.
Yeah. Well,
It's okay.
yeah. Next year we'll still be the same ages
No, true.
before our
That's true.
birthdays.
Yeah. All right. Scotland or
Tokyo.
Tokyo next year, then
Yeah.
maybe. All right.
Yeah. And long flights don't bother me as much.
I don't mind flying.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
don't mind flying. I don't mind flying. As I'm waving my microphone around.
I think it's still picked up, but um
Yeah.
yeah, the only thing was I remember what the first time I had a long flight when we were going to Paris. And you're sitting there, you're sitting there, you're sitting there, and you're like, oh my God, it's been so long. And then you realize you have like 4 more hours to go.
Mm-hmm.
And started to feel a little claustrophobic of like, oh my God, get me out of here. Like I've been on this plane for,
Yeah.
6 hours already.
Right.
But all the
All
other
depends
times
on
it's
where
been
you
fine.
sit too.
That's true. How big the plane is, all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like to sit in just past first class in those
Behind.
economy plus seats.
Yeah. Little extra
Little
room.
extra room, not quite so crowded.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever flown first class?
I have.
To where?
Let's see. Karen and I went for upgraded to first class one time. It was a short flight, but
Yeah,
you know,
that's usually when it's
yeah,
best to do it because it's cheaper.
yeah. Because I think there was some confusion in the airport or something, and we ended up having to just let's upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah, we couldn't sit together or something. They messed up on the tickets
yeah,
and couldn't, so we just upgraded.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's the times that I've flown first class.
yeah.
It's been like, why
Why not?
not? You
Why
know?
not? But it is very nice. And then, well, Grandpa and I were gonna fly first class back from our Alaska cruise. Yeah, and they ended up messing up the tickets that way,
Love it.
and they're overbooking. And there was so Grandpa had to sit in economy plus, and I got to sit in first class.
Oh, well, that was nice, but
Yeah, it
that's
was
how it
nice
shook
that he
out.
let me, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
I don't understand how, like, they can overbook.
I
I
mean,
don't
if you
get
have a
it.
seat, you know.
That's what I mean. Like, imagine I like have this fear of like I'm going to sit in my seat and somebody's already sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't. And then they're like, "We'll give you this much money and all of this stuff to delay." And every time that's happened, it's like, "No, I need to get home."
Right, right. I have many times wished I could take them up
Yeah.
on that, but yeah.
I mean, do you remember there's two times that this has happened to us, not on purpose. The one of the times we were both times from SNA, from
Uh-huh.
John Wayne Airport. Um, the first time they completely canceled our flight.
Yeah.
And we were like, I had work the next morning. And I was like, what are we going to do? We had to find a hotel. We had to like rebook our flights. I had to email work. It was a mess. And then the other time they flew us to Oakland because SFO was because of weather or whatever it was. And I was like, how are we supposed to get
How are we
home
supposed
from
to get
Oakland?
across the bay? Yeah. Yeah.
We were like, I was texting everyone, like, can you come pick us up? And
Well, didn't we eventually get a driver, like an Uber
they
type of
called
thing
us,
that they paid for?
the airline called us an Uber.
Yeah.
And we got an Uber home from Oakland, which is crazy because
Yeah.
it's like kind of far.
Yeah.
But it's just like these crazy, like, what are the airlines doing?
I don't know. And then I felt really bad for all those people in that big Southwest snafu where
That was rough.
yeah,
Because
that
I went
was
on a trip
right
at that time. Luckily, I was flying Alaska.
right.
But all of the people on the trip were all flying
Yeah.
Southwest and all had their flights canceled.
Yeah.
And like, it was, yeah.
One of our employees had to delay. because of that flight
That's
snafu.
wild.
And she still hasn't been back to work.
Oh my. Yeah, it's hard because it's like you
Yeah, that
don't.
was just the start.
Yeah, but you're like when you're flying somewhere, your options are so limited. Like
Yeah.
what you can, it's like obviously
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back home or I'm trying to go on my trip. Like either one of those they're important.
Yeah.
So it's
Plus the fact that, every time we go someplace, we always leave at the last minute.
yeah.
Try and we don't, fly home early.
No.
So,
Yeah, you got to
yeah. So,
maximize your
yeah,
time.
exactly.
Oh man.
So,
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where my flight is like right after work to go on my trip
right.
and then the flight home gets late and I go to work the next morning. Like I'm
Yeah.
not leaving any extra recovery time in there.
Right, but then you're still young.
That's I don't feel it the next day though. Cuz people do say that. I'm like, I don't know, I'm really tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those red eyes that I insist on taking, it's just like they're getting harder and
Yeah, but you have been a
harder.
very adventurous granddaughter
Mhm.
for doing things on your own, trips on your
Yeah.
own and everything, and I have always envied that.
Aw.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, there's like nothing like the independence that you feel when you're like traveling alone like that.
Yeah.
And in the fall, that was the first time I actually took a full vacation by myself.
Yeah.
I've traveled alone before, but that was a
Right.
full trip,
Yeah.
which was that was a good time. There was not one moment where I was like, "Man, I'm lonely."
Yeah.
So, I recommend it to everyone if they can.
Everybody should have some time to
Yeah.
just be.
Exactly. There was the only thing that sometimes was I wish another person was there was like when the decisions needed to be made, like where should I eat dinner?
Yeah.
What should I do next? I'm like, I wish I had another person also contributing ideas.
Right.
Because it's like, where should I eat dinner? I don't know. And then it's like, okay, well, I
It's
gotta
like,
figure it out.
okay, well, you better figure it out quick or you're hungry.
Exactly. But then other times where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really tired right now. I'm just gonna go back.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to worry about anybody else's experience
Saying,
being
oh
cut
no,
short.
yeah.
And then other times where I'm like, I'm feeling all right. I'm gonna go to the next place. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep going. I feel good. And I didn't not, luckily not, there was maybe one time where I was like feeling a little unsafe.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time I felt fine traveling alone,
Yeah,
It was
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's because
You have
travel
have
bug.
that option now. Back in the day,
Yeah.
it wasn't. Some of the stories I hear at work of one story I just recently heard was one of the ladies um went in to get a library card,
Mm-hmm.
and they told her she couldn't get a library card because she had to take the application home and have her husband fill
What?
it out. Yes, and this was not that many years ago.
That sounds
So,
ridiculous.
and well, she put up a fuss. She says, but it's my library card, not his.
Yeah.
Why does he have to sign it for me? And,
That's
they finally came to an agreement and she got her
oh
library
my
card.
a
But
library
that
card.
was, yeah,
Ay, ay, ay. I mean, I know women couldn't have their own credit cards
yeah.
until not that long ago either, so it
Right.
makes sense
So
that
we've come a
traveling.
long way, baby.
Yeah, luckily, because I like
Hmm.
doing my own thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a husband have to come with me.
Right. Or decide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or pay for it. I like
Well, I
having,
don't know. Maybe paying for it would be good.
but he has to pay for it. I
Right.
like being
Yeah.
able to make decisions about myself and
Yeah.
spend money when I want to. It would,
There we
of course,
go.
it would be nice if somebody else would pay for me, but
Exactly.
I get to make decisions, which is good. All right.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted?
We could probably talk for hours, but I
probably
think
could.
I
Yeah,
think we had a nice chat.
I think we did too. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for joining me.
I'm glad you asked.
Of course. Of course.
Okay.
All right, everybody, I'll catch you in my next episode. Bye. And the next episode will be in season 3. So that's a wrap for season 2. Thank you to my 5 guests. And I cannot wait to show you what I have in store for season 3. Stay tuned.